Hate speech is understood as all types of expression that incite, promote, spread, or justify violence, hatred, or discrimination against a person or group of persons, or that denigrates them by reason of their real or attributed personal characteristics or status such as race, color, language, religion, nationality, national or ethnic origin, age, disability, sex, gender identity, and sexual orientation. Hate speech is unfortunately not rare in the Western Balkans. And given the complex context of the past and the history all of the countries in the Western Balkans have in common, hate speech is a serious threat to social peace and equity. Media, of course, play an important role in condemning hate speech and educating the public on why such narratives can lead to negative consequences. When media fail to fulfill their role, it is easy for hate speech to flourish and even become more serious and turn into violence. In this episode of Youth Squad, we are delving into a crucial and timely topic for the Western Balkans region, which is ethnic-based hate speech. This form of hatred has far-reaching consequences on people and societies, and it's vital that we understand the role traditional and social media have. Joining us here in this episode is Anya. She's a media monitor from Media Diversity Institute, Western Balkans. Hello, Anya. Welcome to Youth Squad. How are you?
Hi, I'm great, thank you. And thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. It's such an important topic, and I couldn't imagine anyone else speaking about it besides you. So thank you for accepting the invitation and coming here. So let me tell you a little something about Media Diversity Institute Western Balkans. This is a non-governmental organization which strives to create a better media environment in the Western Balkans by monitoring the narratives that are dominant in the media and by offering alternative narratives that are not harmful. So instead of hateful narratives and harmful speech, Media Diversity Institute Western Balkans tends to promote different narratives and values that are in line with human rights and equal and equitable approach. Can you tell me what is the importance of the activities that the institute is implementing?
Yes, so like you said, MDI focuses mostly on monitoring media, especially monitoring diversity in the media and how media report on diversity, and do they even report on diversity? Is it always negative and so on? Also we encourage responsible, ethical, and professional reporting on social diversity or of different groups in the society. We also provide trainings, education, and so on to different groups of people, usually journalists, media workers. We focus also our work a lot on young people. And so on. We have actually a lot of ongoing projects. The one that mostly deals with this topic is Reporting Diversity Network, in which we actually do basically the same thing that you said, just we do it on a regional level. So we have a network of 6 organizations across the Western Balkans 6, where we monitor and report on hate speech and discriminative discourse against different groups in the society. We work together basically to counter it as the best we can.
So basically you could say that hate speech is something that's unfortunately universal to all the countries and communities in the Western Balkans.
Oh, definitely. We have shockingly similar, actually considering that we are so divided as societies, we have very similar results in all of the Western Balkan 6, and we often work together on these cases. So we have like joint reactions usually, because mostly, especially when it's when we're talking about ethnic-based hate speech or something that has a more of a regional topic, we usually work on this together. We try to work on all of the cases together, but especially in these situations, it's usually a joint effort.
And how important is it to have what is the difference between? Have you noticed any? Your initiatives becoming more noticeable if it's on a regional level than just having reactions from all the Western Balkans 6 separately.
Yes, of course. I think that's the biggest impact that Reporting Diversity Network, or RDN as we call it shortly, has. I think we have reached, because this is a project that has been going on for years now and will be going on for years, which is a great thing. I think we created a network, first of all, of journalists, NGOs, and so on, who work together and have basically a connection, and we work as colleagues, basically, which I think is really important when trying to tackle topics such as these. And also I think we have created a very diverse regional public of people who follow what we do and who recognize us as an important actor in this field, which I think is also good, not only for us, but for generally for all of our societies.
And you, as a media monitor, obviously you have a very important task of monitoring everything that is going on in the media, and you monitor Serbian media, right?
Yes.
So you have this really, really important and responsible task to notice different narratives happening, different waves of different things, just like narratives in the media, but also the way the media in general, on which the topics it focuses more in which period and stuff. And this can be, obviously, it's a responsible task, but it can be really tiring, I assume, because as I mentioned in the beginning, the hate speech is not something that's rare in the Western Balkans. So you mostly encounter hate speech and negative stereotypes, prejudice, and so on. And how does the network help you feel, supported by the people, that are in similar environment as you are?
Yeah, so in all of the Western Balkans 6, we have monitors who focus on that specific community. So yes, I only monitor the news in Serbia, but it's definitely helpful, and it means a lot to know that you have colleagues all over the Balkans that you can always easily contact, because as I mentioned, we usually okay, so let me explain a bit better in better detail. So as you mentioned, hate speech is everywhere, and in RDN we monitor both traditional media and also social media. So especially on social media, because we have a lot of content there, hate speech is basically a never-ending cycle. But we try to focus on the cases that gain the most attention, especially if they gain a regional attention, and just the ones that usually even traditional media talks about, so they flow out to the
they spill into traditional media as well from the social media.
Exactly. And usually, or not usually, but very often, these cases have a regional importance, especially when we talk about ethnic hatred, or even in some cases it's just because Western Balkans, however divided we might be, we are also very connected through culture, through everything. For example, now we had DocuFest and Sarajevo Film Festival in Kosovo and in Bosnia and Herzegovina, and we had some hate speech and some discrimination that occurred not during the festivals, but basically it was a reaction to the festivals that promote just peace building and some I would say good values,
equality and stuff.
Yes, so these things are always regional, and that's when the support from our partners and our colleagues from the region means the most, because we usually work on these together, and we come together and think how can we react to this, how can we help the situation, what is the best solution, and so on.
So basically jump on a meeting just to rant about everything that's been frustrating you, and you feel connected because you can actually talk to someone about it, and
Yes.
someone who also understands the context you're talking about, because they're also in the topic as much as you are.
Yes, exactly.
That sounds like quite a supportive group, which is awesome to have in such,
It is. It really is. You would think that it would be hard to have a group of people from all of the all over the Western Balkans, but yeah, we actually usually. Even if we usually agree, but even if we don't agree, it's always an easy conversation.
That's awesome to hear. So you mentioned a couple of things, but what is the best thing that has happened since Reporting Diversity Network is established?
Oh, that's a hard question. I would say one of the best things is that, for me personally, is that I think that you can really see progress each year with the network developing. As I mentioned in the beginning, I feel like every year we gain more recognition from the public and from other relevant actors, and I think we as a network grow stronger together.
So basically, you're creating this regional cooperation, and you are connected by the same struggles that you face with the media reporting either negatively on the diversity or not at all, and by having similar issues and obstacles with ethnic-based hate speech. And how often do we encounter ethnic-based hate speech in the Western Balkans? I actually researched a little bit and tried to get familiar with the topic, and I came across the report that the RDN has produced last year. It's the report it's a regional report about the hate speech narratives, and it's based on the media monitoring that you're doing daily for the last couple of years. And it was really interesting to read through it and to look at the data, and especially because in the research, in the report, you can see three groups being highlighted as the most targeted ones, and ethnicity is usually the most target. It turned out to be the most common targeted identity in the observed period, which is for 2022, right?
Yes.
So how do you comment this? Obviously, as mentioned in the beginning, we have a really complex past history that we share. Lots of things have happened over the years, and we are still in the peace building process and still in the reconciliation process, actually. So it's a really complex context of the region. So how do you comment that ethnicity is still such a huge thing? Shouldn't we, moving away from it or something?
Well, of course we should, but that is definitely in our research still the most common targeted group, or not group, but identity. And yeah, it's definitely because of the context of the region, especially. Maybe it's not, I wouldn't say that it's the same all over the Western Balkans, but especially in these specific, obviously we have it in all over, but in these specific, maybe smaller communities where you have a lot of mixed, it's a multi-ethnic community, especially when they have history
of conflicts, right?
Of conflicts, of course, yes. During the 90s, and these wounds are still not healed, which is, to be honest, not only the media's fault. It's a very complex issue. But yeah, it is also expected to have.
But the media does put a spotlight on these issues. I mean, obviously, it may be not coming from the media only, but putting a spotlight on negative narratives without challenging them is as harmful.
Absolutely, media uses it for sensationalism, basically, yes. But we have, for example, in Montenegro, especially over the past few years, we've seen a lot of ethnic-based hate speech between Montenegrins and Serbs. And we have basically a divided media that is produced by the divided society, where it's constantly either one hateful narrative towards one group, or it's a hateful narrative towards the other group. And there is just a very, very little professional reporting on tensions that are constantly happening, basically.
Still, yes, obviously. I mean, maybe the wars have ended, but there are still some consequences that are, and as you mentioned, the open wounds that are still bleeding and should be handled with care and patience and professionalism, especially by the media. So you mentioned like the wars, but are there any other, obviously, the wars have caused, the past wars in the 90s have caused the Western Balkans to be a deeply divided society even today in 2023. But, there are different narratives that are, becoming more or less popular as the time goes and as the period change. So, for example, during COVID-19, I read in your report the things have changed a little bit, and it seems as if the Western Balkans is prone to having ethnic-based hate speech. It just depends on which ethnicity it's gonna target the hate speech.
Yes. Yeah, of course, the wars in the 90s are not the only cause of this. And each year we see something new and some new trends. Obviously, we have a lot of just the current political situation in each moment or in each year that we monitored. We have new situations and new conflicts arising. As you mentioned, COVID-19 basically brought to the Western Balkans media the same, I would say, that it brought to the media in general in the world, which is a lot of misinformation, disinformation, and so on. And, these...
Yeah, I mean, obviously, the disinformation causes around the COVID-19 has caused a lot of hate speech targeting other ethnicities, not only those coming originally from the Western Balkans. So many hate speech, as I've read, was targeted towards for example, Chinese people yes. Because of how the media reported on COVID-19, basically, which is an illustrative example of how the hate speech is spread. Basically, if the media is going to report on Montenegrins as the other, quote unquote, we are not. It's going to be really hard for people from other countries to accept them as a part of their societies, even in multi-ethnic communities. Yes. So that's why, as you mentioned, the media professionalism and reporting on diversity is extremely important, because then you get exposed to these people and you realize they're just as people as you are.
Yeah, definitely othering is a huge issue, especially when we're talking about ethnic-based hate speech. But also what happened here during COVID-19 is that you have a new scary situation, I would say, or people... New threat to the society, something that people cannot deal with so easily. And then you obviously you have to blame someone, and then hate speech arises. And yes, we had the case that you mentioned of hate speech against Chinese and Jewish people, actually, in Albania during COVID. But also in other countries as well.
Thank you. I mean, this is really interesting because obviously you can't pinpoint the beginning of hate speech in the Balkans, but it was really, as I said, illustrative to see when the COVID hit, and as you mentioned, the new threat coming in from somewhere, and you can't really deal with the emotional distress you're in. You're just gonna have to find someone who's guilty for it. So you're gonna, blame a whole group of people for something they obviously didn't do, and then this whole train of hate speech and different narratives comes along, and it becomes a serious issue, and it gets really difficult to heal from it once the threat has been neutralized.
Yes, we had very similar situation, or not very similar, but similar, after the Ukrainian-Russian conflict started, or the Russian aggression against Ukraine, when we had also a rise in ethnic-based hate speech here, and you could feel the tension, I would say, in the media and in the public in general, of different ethnic groups in the Balkans.
So in the Balkans, not towards Ukrainians or Russians, but within the Balkans.
I would say within the Balkans, yeah. I feel like that conflict kind of re-instigated.
Kind of reignited.
Reignited. Yes, thank you. Reignited the conflicts here.
So they would find similar context, and then
yes, and obviously different policies towards the conflict that all of the countries have. I feel like created even more ethnic tension, and therefore ethnic-based hate speech.
And it only amplified on social media.
Yes.
Especially with the Telegram groups, these really private groups that are not so private because they have a lot of members, but they're pretty much allowed to share such hate speech because most of the time the regulations are quite, and the moderation of these groups are quite poor. So this is a great field for hate speech to flourish.
Yes.
I mean, but not all hate speech is the same. I mean, obviously, if something is said in the Telegram group, it's not going to be the same as it's said on national television. So what methodology did you use when you were creating this report, media monitoring report, sorry?
Yes, so we use, basically in our methodology, we divide the situations that we encounter, or the media content that we record, by type of hatred, first of all. So we have hatred against that's based on gender, sexuality, ethnicity, religion, and so on.
So different parts of someone's identity.
Identity, exactly. Then we also monitor how or who committed the hate speech, which is something similar to what you mentioned. So is it a politician? Is it a government official? Is
because
it a
doesn't
celebrity?
have the same consequence if if
yes,
it's said by...
of course you have a much bigger, I would say, responsibility and accountability if a government official says something that is hate speech, and that happens quite often in the Balkans. Unfortunately, yes. Also, yeah, is it a journalist? Did the media produce that hate speech, and so on? And then we also have different types of content. So is it an insult? Is it just a stereotype? Is it disinformation or misinformation, incitement to violence, and so on? And we also have what you actually, I think, mentioned, is the difference in sentiment, as we call it. So it's not the same sentiment of hate speech if it's just disagreement. So if you just don't agree with the values of the other group, or the last category that we have, which we have 6 categories of this sentiment analysis, is basically wishing for someone's death, which you would think that doesn't happen, but it happens. And yeah, so we in these categories we also have instigation of violence, which is also the fifth one. So before wishing for someone's death, demonization, dehumanization, and so on. But this is important because it's I don't want to say hateful things in this podcast, but it's not the same.
I mean, it's not the same if you call someone stupid and you wish someone's that, or you threat them. I mean, obviously, it's very. I mean, they can be categorized as hate speech, and I saw within the report that you mentioned different examples as well, and that is interesting to look into because, obviously, there are certain different levels of this hate speech. So it's important to mention that there is this scale of seriousness of these incidents and cases of hate speech because they're not all the same. And you mentioned these different generators of hate speech, different people different actors that are producing the hate speech. So who is the biggest generator of hate speech in the Western Balkans from your perspective, from your media monitoring perspective? Yeah,
so it depends. Our results vary based on the category, but I would say in most cases, and especially when it's ethnic-based hate speech, it's usually politicians or even government officials, and the media workers, journalists, and so on. They're usually the biggest generators, which is scary.
Yeah, and ironic. I mean, the people that have the job not to do that, they are actually producing hate speech.
Yes,
that's really ironic.
Yeah. So we try to hold them accountable. We try to use all of the official mechanisms that we have in each of the countries to counter this hate speech, to hold them accountable. Yes, but we usually we have some successful reactions for sure, but the main generators with who I would say hold the most power, which are government officials, rarely, almost never apologize for their very harmful words.
So they seem untouchable, right?
Yes.
And what about the media? Have you ever reacted to something that was produced by media workers and was utterly false or hateful or discriminatory?
Yeah, we often do this. We react to media content in Serbia through the press council and through the regulatory body for electronic media.
Have you had any responses?
From the press council, yes, they always respond in some way. It's not always. They don't always accept our
complaints.
Our complaints, yes, but they always respond, and we had successful reactions from that part. But the regulatory body for electronic media in Serbia has never reacted to.
Never, ever.
Not even once.
Wow.
To our complaints, which is I would say specific for Serbia and for that particular body, because they don't really react to complaints coming from other organizations, civil society organizations. So we share that struggle.
Wow, I mean, this is quite, I mean, it's a huge statement to say, like, the body that is in place to regulate certain things, it's just completely ignorant to the breaches of code of journalists and so on, and
other media laws, basically.
Yeah. I mean, it's really, as you mentioned, scary.
Yeah, it is. But we try to use the mechanisms that are available and that work, and we try to do the best we can.
Okay, but have you ever had a certain discriminatory article being taken down as a product of your reaction to the press council?
Yes, we had that last year. it was this article about monkeypox
Mm-hmm.
that basically from the radio television of Vojvodina produced it. And it was very discriminatory against LGBTQ plus community. And we complained, and they actually reacted. We had many successful reactions when we had press council condemn these articles, but the media itself, because this is a self-regulatory body, so the media doesn't face any sanctions.
Like lawfully, they are not obliged to.
Yes. So they often don't take down the articles, but we had successful cases like this one.
Awesome. I mean, you're doing God's work, as people like to say. So thank you for your service, and thank you for spreading awareness about such an important topic. And generally, I think in the Western Balkans, it's crucial to have initiatives such as this one, and to also not focus your work towards the biggest generators, as you mentioned, the politicians, political figures, governments, officials, and so on, but to also focus it on educating and helping, those that are working in this field to do a better job. Because unfortunately, sometimes it's the case that the journalists don't do it out of, some bad malintention. It's just simply not knowing enough. So as I saw on your website as well, you have a lot of resources that can be used by the media professionals to, approach better these topics and to do better work. So for the end, I have one question that's not simple, but try to answer it the best you can. But what do you think is crucial to change or to happen in order for the hate speech in the Western Balkans to for hate speech in the Western Balkans media to be reduced?
That's a very difficult question.
I know.
But I would say we need different factors to basically work together. So we definitely need to see change in the society, as in the values that are dominant here. We need a lot of education of media workers and of everyone when it comes to media literacy, basically everyone who consumes the media, which is almost everyone.
Or everyone.
Or everyone in the world.
So basically this cooperation among different factors involved to happen in order to for anything to change. This is the first step, basically, the cooperation to be established, because from what I understood from what you just said, it is not possible for only Media Diversity Institute Western Balkans to react on something and for that to be called a day, but it's rather important for other also non-governmental organizations and CSOs, but also institutions, media professionals, media outlets.
Institutions, of course. I think we need to develop a better system that will work better in order to counter hate speech.
And for example, bodies that are already established to actually do the work that
that is the first step. And then we can talk about making those mechanisms better.
Okay, thank you for this insightful conversation, Anya. I will make sure to put the links to the report that I was referring to and you were referring to during our conversation within the description of this podcast episode. This was really interesting to hear, and I hope that our audience finds it as well. And I really hope that we get a chance to hear more positive information in a year or two. But I know that hate speech is not something that's handled within such short period of time. It actually takes more time. But without RDN and without MDI Western Balkans, I believe that it would be much longer than whatever it is in our future. So thank you for doing what you're doing and continue doing it. We'll make sure to support it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for being here. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Youth Squad. My name is Maria. The Youth Squad podcast series is recorded under a small-scale project in the field of youth called Voicehood of Youth, which will cover 4 topics: human rights, gender equality, European multiculturalism, inclusion and diversity, and active participation. The project is implemented within the Erasmus Plus program and is financed by the Swedish National Agency. Thank you for tuning in, and make sure you stay tuned for another episode.